All right, good morning, good morning, good morning, YouTube. What's happening? Hope everyone is having a good week so far. And for this video here, I just wanted to cover some upcoming fights, all right? Some upcoming news, some potential fights that's coming up based on the reports we got within the last couple days. All right. First, make sure you please subscribe to the channel. Also, smash that like button, smash that give me that thumbs up if you can. Share the video to your social media if you can. Follow me on my Twitter. Everything is there in a banner right there. My Twitter handle, my Instagram handle, and anything that you're willing to donate. You can hit me on the Cash App, Venmo. All that information is at the bottom there. All right. Like I said, I hope everyone's having a good week so far. Just covering a lot of news the last couple of days because we don't have a big week in boxing coming up this weekend. All right. Most of everything is next weekend. All right. So I'm definitely going to be doing breakdowns. I'm definitely going to give you the Ortiz Lomachenko breakdown soon. I already just started doing some film study for that one. So just be on the lookout for that in the next couple days, few days or so. All right. So yeah, today this video here is going to be short. I just want to cover some news and some of the fights that are coming up and in the late at the end of this year and early for next year. All right. So let's start out with Triple G. And the reason why I want to start out with him is because I just finished talking about Triple G the other day. All right. And what he should do, or what I would like for him to do at 160, being that he is a unified champion still at 160, even though he lost to Canelo. Triple G's belts, his titles were not on the line in that fight against Canelo. All right. So he is still a unified champion. He is a WBA and a super WBA champion. He's the full WBA champion. And he's also the IBF champion at 160. And we heard maybe, I don't know, maybe a couple months back, even before, I believe before the Canelo fight, we heard that Lara was going to be his mandatory, because Lara is like the world WBA champion or something. So he's like the lower tier junior WBA champion. And the WBA has been trying to consolidate for most divisions. They've been trying to consolidate all of the titles. So if you are like a junior champion and you're the super champion, they want all of those fighters to fight each other. All right. So Lara is basically a mandatory. So we heard about that first. But now, based on reports that we're getting today, the IBF wants to mandate Esquiva Falcao. He's going to be the mandatory. And what they have planned, they're doing a joint thing where the IBF mandatory is going to fight Triple G first, and then Lara will fight the winner of that fight. Okay, so look, Falcao. I'm a little familiar with him because I did watch his fight against Patrice Boney. I think that was either earlier this year or last year. I know it was stopped by a technical decision. I can't remember if it was like from a headbutt or something. Something happened in the fight where they had to end the fight early and make a decision based on the current scorecard, all right, at that time. So it might have been a headbutt. I can't remember. It was some sort of foul or something. All right, but Falcao is a Brazilian fighter who's undefeated, okay? And he is like a Olympic silver medalist back in Brazil. So he's an undefeated fighter. He's a good fighter. In fact, he actually fights similar to how Lara fights now. He is a southpaw as well. They have like similar dimensions, similar height. They have similarities in their style. So it's just like a funny coincidence how Triple G, two mandatories, is they have a similar style. Okay. When I compare the two, and when I say Lara now, I'm basing it off the fact that Lara doesn't move nearly as much, and Falcao does not move that much neither. All right. But slick southpaw fighter, got solid power, has a solid KO ratio. He just hasn't fought any real top tier fighters yet at 160. He fought Patrice Volney, who at that time didn't really, that was a step up for him. And also he fought Akhvov. Okay. So he got a win over Akhvov in like the 4th or 5th round. I did check that out, a little bit of that as well, but he's really unproven at this time. But he is the mandatory for Triple G. All right. Shout out to everyone that's coming in too. I see you guys, Isan and Iman, Scott, Foltex. What's up? What's happening with you guys? Everybody hit that like button for me. So really, I mean, look, man. And I told you guys this the other day. You know, I want to see Triple G. You know, he's 40. He'll be 41 early next year. All right, in a few months. I don't believe that Triple G is going to take both of these mandatories. He might take one coming off of a loss to Canelo. He may take the Falcao fight. I don't believe that Triple G is going to fight Erislandy Lara. Okay, I just think that he's going to relinquish the title and he's going to go for a bigger fish, maybe a Eubank Jr., something like that, you know. Maybe who's the other guy? Jaime Munguia, you know, because they're both on the zone. I believe since Triple G is going to continue fighting, I believe that he is going to fight another name, at least another name or two, before he actually retires. And if he's going to face one of these guys, I think he's going to face one of these guys so he can hold on to a title. But I don't believe that he's going to fight Lara. I think he's going to fight Falcao, being that they're ordering that fight, as in like he only has like 30 days to agree to these terms. And if not, he's going to get stripped of one of the titles, if not both. All right. So I do believe he's going to fight Falcao because of him being a mandatory, him at least keeping one belt. But I seriously doubt Triple G is going. One thing I wanted is for Triple G to at least try to go undisputed before retiring. You know, even though he had a great career, I know he had a lot of title defenses. You know, it's just a lot of fights he didn't get to take. You know, at 160, a lot of guys didn't really want to fight him. You know, the bigger names like Sergio Martinez, you had guys like Chavez Jr., Miguel Cotto, who was in the division for a little bit of time. He didn't fight Miguel Cotto. He did fight Canelo, but he doesn't have a recorded win over Canelo. And I think, you know, there was never a Charlo fight. Yes, he did fight Danny Jacobs, you know, which was a great win at that time. He did fight Deverenchenko. You know, he did fight some good fighters. But I think for Triple G, I wish Triple G would go for an undisputed run. But it's going to be hard to do that if you are going to be defending your titles against your mandatories. So with that being said, I think at this point, being that now you have 2 mandatories to take care of, it's going to be hard to unify even further now. Plus, now the other fighters are with the zone. You know, you have Jamal Charlo that is not even looking towards Triple G's direction, and I don't believe Triple G wants to fight him neither. So I don't believe that fight happens. And then you have Janibek, who's with ESPN and Top Rank, who I don't believe that Triple G wants to fight because he's a Kazakh fighter as well. So I don't believe that fight happens neither. So what is Triple G stuck with? Triple G is stuck with 2 mandatories and possibly a fight with another name or two, you know, and I think that name is Eubank Jr. because they're pursuing the fight. And I think a fight makes sense. You know, I know they tried to make the fight years ago and Eubank Jr. backed out. But at this point, you know, if it's not Eubank Jr. or if it's not Jaime Munguia, I really don't see the fight happen. You know, I think Jaime Munguia plan was always to fight a Triple G at some point, and Eubank Jr. is looking to pursue the fight now as well. You know, I think Eubank Jr. has a better chance of winning against 40-year-old, 41-year-old Triple G than he did 5 years ago when they were like trying to make the fight. So I'm just speaking realistic, not as a fan. As a fan, I would love a Eubank Jr. fight. You know, I would love the Jaime Munguia fight. But as far as these mandatories are concerned, I don't think they're better fights, but they're not bad fights. Like Falcao is not a bad fight, but it's not a fight that I want to see neither. You know, I think if he is going to fight one of the two mandatories, if he has to get stripped of one of those titles, I will go for the Lara fight, because even though Lara is older now too, you know, he's pushing 40. He is much more known than Falcao. You know, he's much more experienced and successful in his career, whilst Falcao is still like kind of unproven at this point. So if you're going to defend for one of those titles, because you got to keep one of the titles, I believe, you know, even though Triple G has a name, you know, he has more value if he has some kind of title in possession. If he's going to fight another star or something, you know, it has to be some sort of title fight. So I think Triple G should go to Lara, right? The Lara route instead of going to Falcao fight, because the Falcao fight is an easier fight, in my opinion. And it really doesn't do anything. It's not a fight that anyone is asking for, because it's against a guy that's not known like that. And he's a guy that no one is asking for Triple G to fight. It's an easier fight, but that's just about it. It's basically for Triple G, even at 40, a tune-up, you know? And that's not to take anything away from Falcao, because he is a good boxer. But at this level, I think it's too soon for him to fight Triple G at this level, even though Triple G is 40. Right? I would go, if you're going to defend for a title, I would go with Lara over Falcao, in my opinion. All right. But, you know, I think one of those titles he has to defend. And I said this yesterday when it came to Chris Eubank Jr., because his manager is basically saying they're looking to move forward from Conor Benn for now, and maybe fight him down the line, you know, once all of this stuff is cleared up, which makes sense. And they're pushing to fight Triple G. You know, I think they should also be pushing to fight Triple G or Jaime Munguia. You know what I'm saying? So if that is the case, maybe it makes sense for both Eubank. Eubank has to get in the ring at some point, you know, because he can't sit out for too long. Put him in there with, you know, a stay busy fight. Triple G defend one of these two, WBA, IBF, one of those mandatories, defend that title, and then maybe Triple G can get in the ring with a Eubank or a Jaime Munguia. All right. But he's definitely probably going to fight one of the two mandatories next, because I don't think he gets stripped of both titles, even for a name fight. I think he's going to fight one of those two guys next, and then go straight into a fight with a name at this point. All right. Shout out to everyone that's coming in here. I see you guys. What's up, Scott? What's up, Maker? E-Class, Darren, Icky Son, Lincoln, Gary. What's happening? All right. So that's my thoughts on that. You know, overall, I think Triple G at this stage, he got to be active. You know, you're already older as it is, so you got to be active. And I think those are all the different, you know, outcomes, in my opinion. I think he fights one of the mandatories, and I think he fights a name after. I don't think he's going to hold on to both of those titles, in my opinion. I think it would make sense if he was going on an undisputed run down the line. But I don't believe that's what's happening here. I believe that Triple G is looking for a good amount of money on his way out. All right. All right. Let's move on to the next fight. All right. Let's talk a little bit about David Benavidez. He's going to be facing Jose Uzcategui. They're trying to finalize the fight for January. All right. And look, man, this fight was supposed to happen last year, about a year ago, but Uzcategui tested positive for a PED. All right. And it's not a fight that many of us was really asking for then. But you know, Benavidez is just trying to stay active, and this is my point. My point has always been, at the very least, even when you're not getting the fights that we want, stay active. You know, stay active. any fighter, especially these young fighters, or young or old, even if you're not getting the fights that you want, we know you want Jamal Charlo. We know you want Canelo Alvarez. We know you want Caleb Plant. At the very least, stay active. And I'm happy that he's at least in his younger 20s, mid 20s. You're at least giving us a couple fights a year. All right. Are they the fights that we want? No. No one's asking for David Lemieux at 168 at this point in his career. No. So Uzcategui tested positive for PED, and it's funny because we see what Conor Benn is going through, with a fertility drug, right? He popped on a fertility drug. And Uzcategui was able to pop dirty on a PED, right? And he's still fought like 4 times since 2021, right? He's fought a couple of times before he was supposed to fight Benavidez, and he's already fought like I think late last year and early this year. So it's not like he tested positive, but I think he's like fighting guys in like Mexico or somewhere, and he's just staying active. Matter of fact, let me look up his box rec. Yeah. So he's been taking fights since 2021 in Mexico against like random journeymen, like he beat a guy, Felipe Romero, who was 21-19. 21 wins, 19 losses, 1 draw. He fought another guy in Mexico in June of last year. So I believe that was before the whole Benavidez situation. That was 9-4. And then he fought another guy earlier last year that was 20-28. So there was some kind of gap, I guess, in between June and May. So he almost went a year without fighting after the Benavidez thing. Almost a year. All right, but that's the problem with boxing and the inconsistencies of these suspensions. People pop dirty, and you can probably go off somewhere else randomly and fight anyway. So look, I don't care for this fight because I already feel that at this point, David Benavidez will dominate anyone at the division if it's not like Canelo or maybe Plant. I think he beats Plant, in my opinion. I think he beats Plant. I know Plant knocked out Darrell the other day, and it was an impressive knockout. You know what I'm saying? And it's good to see somebody still improving. But there was no point in any point in Plant's career that I thought he could beat David Benavidez. Now we still got to see the fight. And being that Plant did get that knockout the other day, that's just a prediction of mine. We still got to see the fight. Me predicting one thing doesn't mean that the fight should happen. The fight should happen. I'm asking for the fight. The problem is David Benavidez is just not getting the good fights. I don't think it's really working out over there with him and PBC. I think he eventually is going to have to move up in order to get a better matchup. But I also believe that, if you can stay and make the weight, why not make the weight? I don't have a problem with fighters staying in the weight class and being a big guy at the weight class if you can make the weight. As long as you're making the weight, I don't really have a problem with the size advantage. Callum Smith was just there, and he's even bigger than David Benavidez. Callum Smith, I'm sorry. Callum Smith was just there. Callum Smith is even at 175, he's already one of the bigger guys. Zerto and Smith were at 168 not too long ago, and they both are bigger than Benavidez. And they're both like the biggest guys at 175 currently, even though they were just fighting. They're not career light heavies, So I think Benavidez should stay at the division if he can continue making weight. But he has to get a good fight, man. And if he can't get Plant after this fight, I don't know how many fights he's contracted to fight while he's with the PBC. But if he can't get Plant after this or Charlo after this, I don't know, man. I think it might be time for him to go, you know, at least until his contract is up. You know, I just can't see him re-signing with the PBC because I'm not saying PBC is bad overall. I know that they've been having a drought and they haven't been putting on the amount of fights as some of the other networks, but a lot of fighters' careers have benefited a lot by being with the PBC. I don't believe that's David. That has not happened with David. You know, that's not the case for David Benavidez. Um, and some of the things are not his fault. I mean, some of the he has to take accountability for. You know, losing his belt twice is something that he has to take accountability for. You know, I don't know, that whole Andre situation was weird too because I believe his team wanting an extra amount of money. Like they wanted basically, I think Eddie made a offer to fight David Benavidez for Andre, and I think David turned it down. You know, his team turned it down, and you know that just wasn't a good look for David Benavidez. All right, so he has to take some accountability because I don't think he's been managed correctly. All right, not for him. He's a talented fighter. We see what he can do, but it's not really going the right way for him. Jose Uzcategui, a guy that pops 30 on PEDs, right? And then he goes on like a winning streak against two real regular journeymen, you know? And I forgot he lost to Lionel Thompson. I forgot he lost. He beat Caleb. I mean, he lost to Caleb Plant and he lost the title. Comes back, fight a guy that's 10-9. And then loses to Lionel Thompson in a decision, you know, and got dropped in that fight. And then goes on to beat 2-3 other journeymen, you know, guys with losing records and shit. He's just Uzcategui beat Darrell. Okay, he beat Darrell. He beat Andre Darrell, you know, basically retired him. So I get it. You know, he retired Andre Darrell. Darrell was way past it at that point. All right. And I remember him beating Julius Jackson. Julius Jackson, you know, the son of the Hawk. At the end of the day, that was his first test. That's both of their first tests. Julian Jackson got stopped. He retired. That was it. Jose Uzcategui hasn't done really much of anything, you know, since beating Darrell. You know, and I think Benavidez has proven to be past this level of competition. You know, so I don't know when his contract's up, but if it is up soon, he needs to get out of there if they can't make the Plant fight at this point. You know, or Charlo fight. Something. He needs a name. He needs some kind of comp. All right. But he needs to take accountability for the mistakes he's made as well. You know, but I'm not going to hold it against him for the rest of his career that he dropped the title. Yes, he messed up his chances of fighting Canelo, but when it comes to Plant, that fight should have happened even before Canelo came to 168. That fight should have been happened, you know, when they were both champions. All right. All right. So, what do you guys say? What's up, Jihad? What's up, Gary? Gary asked me, do I think Plant will do what it takes to avoid Benavidez? I think Plant will be harder to make a fight with Benavidez now because the kind of money that Plant is going to want, being that he earned $10 million fighting Canelo Alvarez, I think the PBC is going to have to really pay him the amount of money that he's going to want to fight for, for Benavidez. He's not going to come cheap. And neither is Jamal Charlo. I think that's what's really going on. You know, Jamal already has a name, and I know he hasn't accomplished much or haven't fought super elite fighters at 160. But Jamal and Plant at this point, Plant has been on a pay-per-view for an undisputed fight. At this point, Plant is not going to be fighting Benavidez unless the PBC pays that man at this point. And same with Jamal. You know, I honestly see Jamal Charlo and Caleb Plant fighting each other before either one of them fight David Benavidez. You know, I think the Benavidez fight is either a fight that is not going to happen or it's going to be like at the end of the road. And I don't think they're willing to pay. Like, I just don't believe the Benavidez fight happens. You know, and it's not like Benavidez is this unbeatable guy. It's just he's dangerous. You know, he's a big man that throws a lot of punches and he has power and he's durable. You know, and he's young. He throws a lot of punches. He has a lot of power and he's big. You know what I'm saying? These guys that are good boxers like Jamal and Plant, they're really good boxers. You know, they could probably outbox David for certain rounds, but you got to deal with, oh, snap, we got sirens. I thought I escaped the sirens. You guys hear that? Nah, yeah, I honestly believe that Jamal Charlo and Caleb Plant are going to fight each other before either one of them fights David Benavidez. Because I just believe that the both of them feel like it's a fight that they both can win. You know, I'm not saying this fight is a pay-per-view. Like, Benavidez and Plant is not a pay-per-view fight. It's actually just a fight that should take place. But at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if they make it a pay-per-view. You know, but it's a very good fight. It's a very good fight. You know, it is what it is. All right. Shout out to all you guys coming in. Make sure you smash that like button for me. All right. Yeah, I believe that if Benavidez, that's a good question, CMP. I believe that Benavidez might be his mandatory. Based on this last win or maybe this one coming up. That's a good question. I don't know for sure, so I don't want to say that. I don't know for sure. All right. I think it's one of those things I did know, but I can't remember right now. So you might be right. All right. But I think for the amount of time that the Uzcategui fight lasts, it should be a decent fight. But Uzcategui has been dropped numerous times. Yes, he has power. Yes, he is he's a decent pressure fighter. But David is better in every area, in my opinion. He's better in every area, you know, and he's more durable. And I think that he's going to get slaughtered by Benavidez. And I think Benavidez is going to stop him very early in the fight. You know, I don't see that fight going on. All right. All right. So let's talk about some other fights coming up. Dillian Whyte is supposed to be fighting, or, well, let me not say that, but they're trying to finalize a fight between Dillian Whyte and Jermaine Franklin, all right, for November. Okay. Oh, by the way, the Benavidez Uzcategui fight is supposed to be finalized. They're trying to finalize that for January. So that's not like coming up. It's coming up, but it'll be early next year. But Dillian Whyte, they're trying to finalize a fight between him and Jermaine Franklin, all right, for November. And this will be Whyte's first fight after getting knocked out by Fury early this year. Okay. Now, if you're not familiar with Jermaine Franklin, I want to say that he's probably a top 5 heavyweight prospect. Okay. Prospect, not contender, but prospect as far as an American prospect. He's probably like a top 5 guy. He's still kind of unproven, but he's like 28 years old. He's a big guy. You know, I've seen him fight before. He's beaten Jerry Forrest, and he's beaten what's the name? Ryder Booker. Okay. And you know, he's a guy that likes to slug. So if Dillian Whyte is going to fight this guy, he has to be prepared for a guy that's going to come at him. You know, he's a big man too. And I think he's going to straight come at Dillian Whyte. And if Whyte is not prepared to use that experience and outbox him, he might be in trouble. This is not an easy fight to take on your coming off of a knockout loss. All right. It's a fight that I still believe that Dillian Whyte should win. All right, because he's been like a top 5 heavyweight for years. But at this very moment, this could be a fight where, listen, it's a credible fight. It's a credible win if you are to win, but it's dangerous in the sense that you're not fighting someone that's easy. And you're fighting someone that's undefeated and they're young and they're fresh and they're hungry, So if Dillian takes this fight lightly, and I said this about Wilder recently, even though I was completely wrong with the way that the outcome, I thought that would be a little bit more of a fight than what it was. But, same thing with Whyte. It's not an easy fight. It's a fight that he can lose if he's not on his A game. But it's a fight that he should win, And even though Jermaine he's very explosive, young heavyweight fighter, he's definitely has a lot of holes in his game. I don't think he's a good defender. He definitely leaves himself open, and he definitely can get chinned by Dillian Whyte. I mean, Whyte has the power to knock out anyone in the heavyweight division. He does have the power. So if Franklin is not careful, he can get caught and knocked out too. But I just think that this is going to be a fight where it's going to be tough. All right. I think things is going to start fast in this fight. I give it a round, maybe 2 tops, and these guys are going to go to war, So it's a decent scrap. I'm glad that Whyte is getting back in the ring and not going to wait too long, go a whole year or over a year to wait to get back in the ring. Hopefully they can work it out. It's not a fight. I have no issues with this fight at all. Dillian needs to get back in there, and it's a great opportunity for Franklin, for him to be a prospect and get a shot at Dillian Whyte, a former champion. I think that is, Dillian Whyte never was a champion, actually. All right. But a former top contender who's fought in title fights and has fought some of the best and has beat former champions. I think this is a great opportunity for Jermaine Franklin, he's definitely one of the guys that, I keep my eye on, but we'll see, we'll see. Grim says, Whyte has 0 punch resistance at the stage. Bantamweight could KO Whyte with a salt jab. All right. Well, I mean, I don't agree with that. He's got knocked out by who? He got knocked out by Joshua, Povetkin, and Fury. Those are really good punchers. He's beaten other guys that has punches. So I don't know. I don't really necessarily agree with that. But I think anyone in heavyweight can crack somewhat. Vector says Canelo has stated he won't fight another Mexican, so Benavidez may not happen on these grounds. I'm not even looking for that fight to happen. I'm over that whole thing. I don't think that fight is going to happen, period. All right. If it does happen, it happens. That's great. But if it doesn't, at the end of the day, I barely mentioned Canelo in this video. Like, I'm talking more about Plant and Andrade and what's this guy, Jamal Charlo. Those are fights that I think should have happened by now. All right. Gabe says that's a good fight. It's a good fight for regular showtime. Yeah, I agree. And he's talking about Plant and Benavidez, but I wouldn't be surprised if they try to force a pay-per-view out of that. So anyway, let's move forward. Yeah. Whyte against Franklin, cool. We'll see what happens with that. All right. So let's talk about Zach Parker. Zach Parker against John Ryder, which was announced. Well, they're working on for an interim. Oh, no. This is going to be a WBO interim title fight that they're working to for November, in the November fight. And I think this is a really, really good fight. So Zach Parker is basically the guy that Andrade was supposed to fight. When Andrade relinquished his title at 160 and moved up to 168. He was going to get this title, this WBO interim title fight against Zach Parker. Okay. And Andre turned down the fight because the purse bid, the money was so low, he didn't take the fight. All right. Zach Parker is with Queensberry Promotions. All right. And John Ryder is with Matchroom. So it's good to see that Matchroom and Queensberry and their beef, like, it looks like they're trying to make the fight. So that's good. You know, it's good that they're going to be working together. And it's a good fight. You know, John Ryder, I believe John hasn't fought. I don't believe he's fought since he beat Danny Jacobs. Okay. Let me look it up real quick. I just wanna be sure. But I believe John Ryder beat that was his last fight. And it's not a fight that I thought John Ryder won. I thought Danny Jacobs edged it maybe by a couple rounds on the scorecard. So it was a split decision win, but they were fighting in Ryder's backyard. Okay. So that was his last fight, and that was earlier this year in February. Okay. And Zach Parker is coming off of like 5 knockout wins, but he hasn't had a fight in a year because remember the Demetrius Andrade fight was supposed to happen early this year. It was rescheduled because Andrade pulled out of the fight due to an injury. And then it was canceled recently because Andrade pulled out of the fight because of the whole purse bid situation, right? So with that being said, Parker has not fought in a year. And now he has to go straight into his best test to date after not fighting, being out of the ring for a year. Okay. Now, Parker before that was very active. He fought 3 times in 2021. He fought in 2020. And then before that, you know, he's like when he fought once in 2020, fought once in 2019, and fought a few times in 2018. All right, but he's been out of the ring for a year. But his last 5 wins were knockout wins. Okay. Not against the greatest opponents. You know, he beat a guy that was 8-4. He beat a guy that was 24-1, 15-4, 22-2, and he beat Marcus Morrison, which is probably his best fight to date, and he stopped him in 4 rounds in his last fight. But he hasn't been active and he hasn't fought in a year. All right. So with that being said, it's a good fight. I have no issues with this fight at all. John Ryder coming off of the recorded win against Danny Jacobs, him getting a WBO interim shot is cool. You know, I mean, a lot of us really remember him. I mean, I didn't take notice into John Ryder until the Callum Smith fight, which I thought he won. I didn't think he won the Jacobs fight, but I did think that he won against Callum Smith. You know, I think he actually won pretty clear to me, in my opinion. So this is a good fight. You know, Zach Parker, big guy, a lot of power against John Ryder, who's somewhat of a bull, you know, knows how to close the distance good. You know, not the tallest fighter, but knows distance well, knows how to get in and bring a little pressure to you. You know, he has some good, decent angles, and he knows how to fight well on the inside. So I like the fight. I like the matchup. It's a good test for Parker, you know, who was supposed to fight Andrade, and a good fight for Ryder. It's a great fight, actually. I think it's a great matchup. I have no issues with this fight at all. All right. And then let's go into the last topic of the day. And that's gonna be Josh Taylor agreeing to fight, and Jack Catterall has agreed. They officially agreed to fight. All right, they're still working on the fight. The fight should probably be announced. They're looking to have this fight announced officially sometime this week, but they agreed to fight in February. This is going to be their rematch from their fight earlier this year. Was it earlier this year or late last year? I know it's been a while since the fight, but let me see. Let me look him up. Josh Taylor. All right. Josh Taylor and Jack Catterall. Okay, so they fought in February. All right, and that was Josh's first title defense since beating Carlos Ramirez and winning undisputed at 140. And that was his first title defense. He fought Jack Catterall in a fight that I don't believe that he won. All right, I believe that Catterall won the fight. I scored it 7 rounds to 5 for Catterall. Plus, he scored a knockdown in that fight. All right. So I personally believe I'm happy the rematch is happening, you know. Um, but but this fight will not be undisputed. Josh Taylor has been stripped of 3 of his 4 titles. Okay, so this fight is going to be for only one of the titles. Josh Taylor had mandatories that he just could not, he just couldn't take the fights. He wanted the rematch, and in order to have this rematch, he couldn't defend these titles. He couldn't fight his mandatory, so they basically stripped him, and other fighters are basically going to be fighting or fought for these other titles that he let go. All right, so this is going to only be for one title, but I'm glad that they're having a rematch. And yeah, so Josh Taylor can Ben Davison as his trainer. All right, and he picked up Joe McNally. So my question is, I remember when Josh said, when the fight was over and he got all the criticism that he got for basically getting a decision, a very controversial one. And, a lot of people removed him from the pound for pound list, all that stuff. He got a lot of criticism for that fight. He basically said, listen, if he's going to do a rematch, he's going to do it above 140. He can't do it at 140. But it seems like they're going to do it at 140. And they have to if they're going to fight for a title. Okay. So he's going to have the rematch. It's only going to be for one title, but they're going to do it at 140 again. But he blamed the weight cut as part of the reason why he lost the fight. So if you're going to fight at that weight again, and you're a very, very big fighter at 140, you could easily be a decent size welterweight. What happens if you lose or if the fight is a controversial decision again? What excuse are you going to use? Yo, blood boxer, what's up with you, bro? Thanks for stopping through real quick. Appreciate it, man. Shout out to you. And make sure y'all follow Retro Boxing and Documentaries. He's, Blood's an OG on here, and he's doing some amazing. We was actually talking about you maybe on my live the other day. You doing the documentaries. Somebody asked me if I seen which doc you did. Well, I can't remember which doc, but somebody asked me the other day if I seen it. But yeah, shout out to Retro Boxing Documentaries, and make sure you guys subscribe to him as well. All right. So yeah, the weight cut. You're gonna fight at 140 again. So if you choose to fight at the division again, if the fight is close or if you lose the fight, we just don't want to hear any excuses, As far as the new trainer, hopefully the trainer is, the thing with Benavidez and just based on what I've seen in the fights that he coached, I think Ben is a more safety first kind of coach, anybody he's like trained or whoever's corner he was in, they weren't the greatest as being like an aggressive, effective aggression type of fighter. So, man, maybe Joe McNally would be a good coach. I know he's a coach for Liam Smith. But yeah, maybe this would be better for him. Maybe he can prepare, and I think they're going to prepare. And you taking a fight, you making mistakes, and in a fight where people didn't feel like Catterall was your toughest matchup at that time, and maybe that's part of the reason why you lost, because you fought Regis Prograis, maybe you fought, fighting Ramirez. Maybe you slept on Jack Catterall. I thought he would beat Catterall, but I was leaning towards decision. I kind of thought that Catterall was going to be tough for him, but I thought Josh was still going to pull it off. He did pull it off, so the prediction was right, but I don't believe that he won the fight. All right. So, I mean, we can just really see what he's going to do. I think training and preparing for this fight and having a different coach. The one concern I have with him is him still fighting at 140 after he said he will not fight at 140 again after that first fight with Jack Catterall. So I still think it's going to be tough, and I think that Jack has somewhat of a mental advantage going into the fight. I'm sure that gave him a lot of confidence going into this rematch, because he knows what worked for him. And yes, Josh did come back. I thought Josh, the majority of the later rounds, Josh did win because Catterall started to slow down. But Catterall felt his power. Catterall outboxed him. I thought Catterall was smarter than him. Catterall dropped him. And I think that it's still going to be a tough fight, regardless of how you feel is going to go. I think a lot of people feel that Josh is just going to stop him this time around. I think it's still going to be a tough fight for Josh. Win or lose, I don't think it's going to be an easy fight for Josh. You know what I'm saying? Josh has struggled in fights, and he's had tough, close fights before. So even though he won the major fights, the Victor Postal fight, he won. He struggled in that fight. He struggled against Prograis. A lot of people feel that Prograis won that fight. Ramirez, yes, he stopped Ramirez. It was a very, very tough fight for him too. So these are tough fights for him. And I don't think Catterall is really he's not a walk in the park, period. All right. But I think after this fight, win or lose, he goes to 147. He needs to just get out of the way. He's big for the weight. He became undisputed. He defended his title. I think he should move up. He has a phenomenal resume. There's nothing really left there to do for him. All right. So that's my opinion on that, man. And, we have some decent fights coming up, really. And, that's really it. That's really it, So let me just go do a couple of comments that I get before I get out of here. Scott says, I followed Josh Taylor his whole career. It really annoyed me when he got with Davidson, bad trainer who made him worse every fight. Yeah, I mean, Davidson has been getting a lot of slack lately, and I think that I think with his style, I think he can be good for certain boxers. All right, certain fighters that's looking to improve in certain area, but being the lead coach, maybe not so much. All right. Just my opinion. All right. Iram asks, what do I think of the Ioka and Franco fight? That's a good fight. I mean, it's a unification. I think Josh has he has a title. I know I believe Ioka still has a title. It's a good fight. I've always wanted to see Kazuto Ioka fight like some of the other big names at the division, but it's a good fight. Let me look and see. I believe that this is going to be a unification, but let me just check because I don't want to be wrong. All right, so Franco is, it says here he's a WBA world, but I don't know if he was elevated or not. All right. I know Kazuto is the WBO title holder. All right. Yeah, I mean, if that's what they're gonna do, it's cool. It's not a bad fight. But it's not a fight that I'm like dying to see, but it's a good fight. It's a very good fight at 115. I just wish Ioka had fought the Chocolatitos and Estradas. I wish we got those fights, but it's not a bad fight. You know what I'm saying? Tony Boswell says, much respect, Boxing Wave. And the what is it, 600? I'm not sure what you're saying. 6box100. Not sure, but great content today, working and listening. Thank you for the support, man. Oh, okay. And the work. Okay. All right. Got you. Yeah, I couldn't understand what you were saying. I couldn't understand what you're saying, but uh yeah, so Gabe says, and I was thinking to say this earlier too. If they put Ortiz versus Charles Martin on pay-per-view, they'll definitely try and put Plant and Benavidez on pay-per-view if it even happens. And I agree, and I think that's my point. The way that they've been throwing out pay-per-views, they've been throwing too many of them, and I'm sure the pay-per-views are not doing well because they're not ever releasing any of the numbers. I don't really care about all that. I do hate the pay-per-views, but it is what it is. I don't know what's going to happen in PBC, but it's not right now. It's not looking very, very good, especially with the rumors, that's coming out. I already expressed the other night how I feel about the PBC, and I'm concerned because there's a lot of great fighters, a lot of really good, talented fighters that I like over there, and I'm concerned about their careers. Like if the PBC is really going to fall apart, with Showtime or whoever and Fox or whoever, I'm really concerned about the fighters and their careers, because if they're locked in contracts and they have to stay there and they're like drowning over there and they're not getting enough. I mean, they clearly are not fighting enough over there. If that is true, then I'm concerned about the fighters and their careers, because it's bad enough. Like most of them are not fighting enough. Like Jamal Charlo, for example, he's like one of the biggest names over there, and he hasn't fought since like last summer. And he doesn't even have a fight scheduled. So I just think that, I'm worried about, I told Ennis, well, I didn't tell him, but I tweeted him yesterday because he made a tweet about waiting. And, I know he's not PBC, but I know he is Showtime. And I'm a little concerned that he should be more active. He should be fighting 3-4 times a year, sharpening up those skills, gaining more experience, and maybe not fighting the top tier guys, but he's working towards that. I mean, he's already a top contender at this point. So I'm concerned about the fighters over there and them not getting enough fights. So one thing I say about like guys like Jaime Munguia, I don't respect like the resume and the cherry pick fights. But one thing I'll say about Golden Boy is that they're keeping them very active and having them fight, after, every 3-4 months or something. Like, he's getting 2, 3, 4 fights a year. And I like that. And I feel like guys like Ennis should be getting those amount of fights too, So anyway, I'm going to leave it at that, man. Make sure you guys subscribe if you're new. Please smash that like button, all right? Follow me on social media, hit me with the donations on Cash App, Venmo, all of that stuff. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Y'all have a good one. Peace.